this public hearing of the Public Utilities Committee of Columbus City Council. Before we begin tonight, want to thank everyone for their work preparation for today's hearing. Public Utilities Director Tracy Davies and representatives from the department, John Newsom, Robert Priestas, Jeff Cox, Jeff Bertucci, thank you for all being here tonight. Also want to thank the clerk staff, namely Angela Burks and Mark Carter, and the team at CTV for broadcasting this hearing tonight. In these virtual times, we would have some real tough time doing our work without that great crew there. So thank you for all of your work tonight and continually. The purpose of this hearing is to review and comment on ordinance number 2553-2020 to amend various sections of Title 11, Chapter 1145 of the Columbus City Code to add and expand definitions, clarify the proper handling of liquid waste, proper discharge into the city storm sewers, and the assessment of damages related to illicit discharges. As well, ordinance number 2686-2020 to amend Title 11, Chapter 1145, Section 1145.97 of the Columbus City Code to expand the definition of a public nuisance regarding stormwater control practices and the requirements of remedying such nuisances. This hearing is live streamed on Council's Facebook and YouTube pages and is being conducted via WebEx. The video will be posted on the City of Columbus YouTube channel following this event. I will now turn it over to Pretreatment Program Manager Jeff Bertucci and Stormwater and Regulatory Management Section Manager Jeff Cox of the Division of Sewer and Drainage for their presentation. Gentlemen, can you take it from here?
Thank you, Councilmember Dorans, and thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Jeff Cox, and I am the Program Manager with the City's Stormwater and Regulatory Management Section. Joining me tonight is Jeff Bertucci, who is the Manager of the City's Pretreatment Group. Both of us work out of the Department of Public Utilities, and we want to share with you changes to the City's sewer code that we are proposing, which is Chapter 1145 of Columbus City Codes. So our presentation is composed of three parts tonight. The first part of the presentation will be given by Jeff Bertucci, who will review the changes to the sanitary sewer requirements under Ordinance 2553-2020. I then will be giving a presentation on the changes to the storm sewer requirements under 2553-2020 and the storm sewer requirements in Ordinance 2686-2020. Just to note that the term director, as it is currently in the city code, is presented in lowercase. That term will be capitalized throughout the entire chapter. So with that, I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Bertucci.
All right, thank you. Jeff Bertucci, Pretreatment Program Manager for the City of Columbus. There we go. So the first change that we're proposing is a definition change, food service establishment. It would be replaced with food service operation used in the Ohio Administrative Code. This change simply lines us up with the statewide code. The next change will be removing the definition of grease trap. And again, that is to line us up with the Ohio Plumbing Code. And there's a new definition for grease-laden waste, and that definition will be added to align us and agree with the Ohio Plumbing Code also. Go ahead, Jeff. And then we are revising grease interceptor. There will be a number change at that point. The new definition for grease interceptor replaces the current definition, and the new definition allows use of indoor grease separation without the need for a grease variance. The terms will agree with the Ohio Plumbing Code again. and a new definition for grease removal device, automatic GRD. The definition has been added to clarify the use of indoor grease removal technology. Again, this lines us up with the statewide Ohio Plumbing Code. Go ahead. One of the bigger changes is in 1145.04, the design and construction specifications for grease interceptors. Again, the changes are going to allow the use of indoor grease separation without the need for a variance, and new sections to this code, section B and C, are being added to standardize the approach for designers on how they size the grease interceptors. Current design standards do not exist in the code. And the two new sections, B1, 2, and 3, as well as sections C1, 2, and 3, will now align with the Ohio Plumbing Code as well as the city's Building and Zoning Services Code. And those are the changes that we're proposing on this portion of the regulation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So now I would like to present changes to the storm sewer requirements under Ordinance 2553/2020. So I want to talk a little bit about definitions here. We have added 2 new definitions to the code, and we are revising 2 existing definitions. The first definition that we're adding is a new definition for commercial activity areas. This term is being included in the code to support changes that we are proposing under 1145/84, which I will get to here in a moment. And this definition identifies areas where we're likely to get high concentrations of pollutants of stormwater runoff for specific industries that deal with sanitary sewage and solid waste. We are looking to revise the definition of MS4 in our code. MS4 is an acronym that stands for a Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, and as it's currently defined in our code, refers to a municipally owned separate storm conveyance system. We want to change this definition to state that it is a municipal separate storm sewer system that is the storm sewer owned or operated by the city. We want to make sure that we clarify that in the context of 1145, it's the sewer that the city of Columbus owns. The next new definition that we added is the definition for the term post-construction stormwater control practice. This is a new definition that we're including to support changes we're proposing in our public nuisance section 1145/97, which I will discuss here in a little bit when I cover the changes proposed under Ordinance 2686/2020. Lastly, we are looking to revise the definition of storm sewer. The definition currently in the code refers to an MS4 or a municipal separate storm sewer, which indicates public ownership. Through these code changes, we want to expand that definition, broaden it to make it apply to both public and private storm sewer systems. So under sections 1145/80, 1145/81, and 1145/82, there is a term that is used called city sewer system that is not defined in the code. We are looking to align the terms in these 3 sections with a term that is in the code and that term is sewer system. So we're looking to strike the term city and use sewer system to make it consistent with the definition that we already have, and to try to eliminate any confusion that the way it's currently written might cause. So the next section that we are looking to change is 1145-84. 1145-84 regulates stormwater that goes into the sanitary sewer system, or stormwater that's allowed to go into the sanitary sewer system. Currently, the way the code is written is that any stormwater discharged to the sanitary sewer system is prohibited. One of the changes we are proposing with the language we're presenting tonight is to allow the discharge of stormwater that becomes highly contaminated on commercial activity areas for specific industry types. So if we're talking about an industry that deals predominantly with the management, collection, and disposal and treatment of sanitary sewage and the collection and disposal of solid waste. So there are certain areas within those types of facilities where it may be impractical to treat stormwater runoff through traditional control practices. And we are wanting to revise the code to address those situations, to allow stormwater from those areas to be treated through our sanitary sewer system and wastewater treatment plants. Other changes to 1145-84 are restructuring of what language is already there for clarity, and there is no other change in context. Okay, so while I just talked about the section that deals with regulating stormwater to our sanitary sewer, this particular section goes the other way. This particular section regulates wastewater that would go to our storm sewer system. This section currently reads that any person who wants to discharge wastewater into a city storm sewer has to get a permit from Ohio EPA to do so. It also states that any connection of a home septic treatment device to a city storm sewer has to be eliminated within a reasonable time once a sanitary sewer becomes available for that residence to connect to. The changes we're proposing to this particular section is to remove the term city from city storm sewer so that this requirement applies to both public and private systems. We are also proposing to remove the term reasonable time because reasonable time is not defined in the current sewer use code and is ambiguous. Instead, we prefer to remove that term and continue to refer to federal and state law that would govern those connections. And lastly, there was some language that was brought forward from 1145-84 that pertained more to wastewater, and it was moved into this particular section for completeness. So the last two changes that I want to talk about under part 2 of this presentation are 1145-101 and 1145-102. 1145-101 gives the Director of Public Utilities the authority to assess charges that the city might incur in responding to a spill or a blockage or some other type of damage to a storm sewer or a sanitary sewer or even a combined system that somebody may have caused. One of the things that we're trying to do is broaden both 1145-101 and 1145-102 because they were both really, I think, written to address obstructions in the pipes. And we want to broaden those to include not only obstructions, but also any spill or any illegal discharge that we have to go in and clean up out of our system for these sections. So we're removing the term obstruction from 1145-101. We think that other terms such as damage and impairment that are already in that section are synonymous with obstruction, and obstruction is not needed. And again, it broadens the applicability of that section. 1145-102. Provides us with the authority to currently remove obstructions from the storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and combined systems. We want to broaden it in title to include illicit discharges as well. So if somebody dumps something illegally into a storm sewer system that doesn't cause a blockage, we can still recoup our costs for responding, investigating, and cleaning that discharge from the system. The other thing that we're doing under 1145-102 is we are replacing the term user with the term person. We feel that the term person is very well defined already in our definition section, and it makes clearer who a responsible party would be for assessing these costs for cleanup. So next, I would like to cover the changes we are proposing to the storm sewer requirements under Ordinance 2686-2020. So as I alluded to earlier, we added a definition called post-construction stormwater control practice. And the City of Columbus has a permit with Ohio EPA that authorizes us to discharge water from our storm sewers into our local streams and waterways. One of the requirements of that permit is that the city is responsible to make sure that the post-construction stormwater control practices that are built both privately and publicly in the City of Columbus continue to be maintained and operate to serve their intended function. We have added this new language to 1145-97, which is our public nuisance section, to grant the City of Columbus authority to notify owners of stormwater control practices when an owner fails to maintain such a practice. These changes would then give the city authority to establish a timeline for an owner to fix those deficiencies on their own for the practice that they're responsible for maintaining. If the owner fails to remedy those problems, this portion of the code would give the city the authority to enter on the property and maintain the stormwater control practice ourselves, and then seek reimbursement from that practice owner for costs that the city incurs to maintain that facility. That is the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you both for running through that. I just want to say before we get to sort of the questions, you know, this can be a little bit dry, at times, but I think both of you, when you're talking about the subject matters that we're dealing with here, as far as how this protects, our watershed, our environment, our community, this is not insignificant. This is not an insignificant subject matter for us to be considering tonight. So, I know I was joking with a couple council colleagues about the amazing public engagement that we would be having tonight. But I do think it bears pointing out that these are really important subject matters for us to be discussing, because it really has an impact on our city, our region, on our environment, and to what the Department of Public Utilities does every single day, whether it's ensuring folks have clean drinking water, or ensuring that our streams and watershed are clean and regulated. This is very, very important work. So just wanted to pause to recognize, not only the folks at this hearing tonight, but everyone at Department of Public Utilities that goes to work every single day and doesn't ask for any, a hero's welcome to keep the environment clean. So just want to say thanks for what you all do every day. But want to move to a couple questions here. We don't have any public speakers tonight, but we did receive some written testimony and some questions before from the public prior to today's hearing. So I'm going to articulate a couple of those questions since folks were not able to join us. And I'm gonna sort of direct, hopefully, the questions to the right person. But if I get them wrong, if either one of you wouldn't mind jumping to the other one's help, I'd appreciate it. I think this one's for Mr. Cox. Can you please provide an example of a post-construction stormwater control practice that would be covered by this new definition we're talking about here tonight?
Yes, thank you, Council Member. Yeah, so while we have many, probably the most common practice that people will be familiar with, and probably the most common practice that exists in the city of Columbus, would be stormwater detention ponds. And these ponds are provided to remove pollutants and reduce stormwater flow from new development and redevelopment sites. And the purpose of them is to reduce, the environmental impact that we have to our streams and waterways, and also to reduce downstream flooding.
Thank you. And I think I got it wrong even after I asked you to tell me how to pronounce your name correctly. But Mr. Bertucci, is that it?
Bertacci.
All right, Bertacci. I'm sorry. Could you talk? Currently, a variance is needed to install an inside grease interceptor. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correct?
Yes, you're understanding that. But the proposed changes will eliminate the need for a variance. That'll streamline the installation process for system designers and the plumbers that install them.
And based upon that answer, it sounds to me that the way that it's currently set up, that has resulted in potential unneeded delays on projects, in which, in order to get that kind of thing taken care of, is that fair to say?
It has in some instances, yes.
Okay. So, this is an example of, say, the department, again, to your point, streamlining, things to sort of benefit the process for the public.
Right.
Thank you. Do these regulations extend to mobile food vendors?
The changes proposed this evening do not apply directly to mobile food vendors. However, Columbus City Code 1145 in general does prohibit the discharge of grease from mobile food vendors to the sewer system.
Okay, so just so if folks are watching this at home, I mean, one of the reasons we want to ask that question is that 20 years ago we didn't have mobile kitchens rolling through the city that produce grease, right? And now we do, and that can be a problem if someone thought, hey, it'd be much easier for us to just go ahead and put this down the storm sewer, which sort of the reason for talking about that at this point, correct?
Correct.
Thanks. What does the city consider a failure to maintain a post-construction stormwater control practice?
So if an owner allows the performance of a practice to deviate from its intended design because they failed to maintain or clean it, it's not functioning as it was designed or built because maybe something is clogged, that would be considered failure to maintain. Also, if an owner modifies the control practice without a approval from our office, from our department, that would affect its original design function, that would also be considered a failure to maintain.
Okay. And I think that leads into my next question. How are inspections performed on private property? Who does them? And how right now, during the pandemic, is that being affected right now? Because I know we're looking at adopting these regulations at our next council meeting, and hopefully sooner than later we will not be dealing with the pandemic. But so I would hopefully, if you could answer the question, sort of inspections in general, as it relates to sort of the topic tonight, and then if you wouldn't mind answering that, if it's different at all, about how the pandemic has affected those inspection practices.
Okay, very good. So the city does inspect all of the stormwater control practices in Columbus, both public and private. We use detailed inspection checklists depending on the type of BMP it is. We have specific checklists for each BMP. We typically begin our inspections by reviewing the plans that the stormwater control practice was built under, and also past inspection reports that we may have on file from previous inspections. We then visit the site and we begin doing our inspection. We document the findings of our inspection on the checklist, and we take photographs. Once complete, we assemble that information into a report that we then send the owner of that practice to make them aware of any deficiencies that they may have to address. As far as how the inspections have been impacted by COVID, they have been, I can tell you that. You know, our staff have been on varying schedules as needed in response to the COVID pandemic. So, you know, some of those inspections may not have occurred as frequently as they might otherwise have occurred during normal situation.
Thank you. One of my last questions here tonight. So will the city respond to requests to investigate, you know, storm or sewer problems that are submitted by any Columbus resident? I'm thinking about, you know, tenants or condominium unit owners, not just property owners.
Absolutely. So the city of Columbus will investigate a call from any Columbus resident or any sewer or stormwater related concern. You know, we will investigate it. If it is a problem that is the city's responsibility to remedy, we will address it. So yes.
Could you speak to why that's important, why that's helpful for the department if in fact, you know, a resident, again, whether they're a property owner or not, you know, may be aware of something concerning on this issue and maybe why they should, you know, seek to contact the department?
Oh, absolutely. So, you know, a lot of times we find out about problems from the community. If people are seeing something and saying something, you know, that's our best source of information of knowing when there's a problem. Anything from, you know, a blockage that might be causing flooding to a spill, certainly a spill that we need to respond to get these cleaned up. So even if you don't own a sewer yourself, but you see something, when you report that to us, that provides us an opportunity to respond and, you know, for the greater community good to fix a sewer system that affects not just one person, but everybody.
And Jeff, what's the best way for a resident, say they see a situation like that and say, hey, I was one of those people watching that public hearing way back in February, and I want to give them a call. What's the best way to get in contact with you all about something like that?
Great question. So the best number is 645-7102. I'll repeat that. That is 645-7102. That is our Sewer Maintenance Operations Center. And those folks are staff. They have a dispatcher 24 hours a day, 365. So those folks are there. Also, if somebody sees a spill to a stream or a storm sewer, they can also call 614-645-STREAM. Again, that's 614-645-STREAM. We have stormwater investigators on staff that will respond to those types of calls as well.
Thank you. I believe that is all the questions I had for the group tonight. I did want to offer any representative from the Department of Public Utilities, if there's anything that we haven't covered or any answers to a question that you thought, hey, this would be a good thing to add at this point. Just wanted to open the floor to anyone who's joined us.
No, I don't think so, Council Member. We appreciate your time.
Yep. No, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all for being here. So as I mentioned earlier, we do not have any public speakers tonight at this hearing. We did receive some written testimony, which will be shared with other council offices that are interested in reviewing that. Want to thank the Division of Sewer and Drainage and the Department of Public Utilities for this presentation. our council staff, certainly Kevin McCain from my office for helping to put things together here tonight, and Hannah Miller. Again, as I mentioned earlier, CTV and the council clerk's office, Angie and Mark, for making sure that all this runs well for us. Appreciate the information of the presenters. As I mentioned earlier, this can oftentimes feel a little bit of probably a bad pun, but a little bit of a dry topic, but it is very important for us as a city from an environmental perspective to make sure that our code on this is up to date and enforceable. And again, to some of the things we talked about tonight, sort of streamlined and accessible for the public as they engage in various activities that involve our sewers. Want to encourage folks who are looking for more information to visit the Department of Public Utilities website, which is columbus.gov/utilities, or call 614-645-8276. You can also email me at radorans, DORANS, @columbus.gov. This is the best way to reach me about this topic or really any other during the pandemic, because City Council continues to work remotely, and the email is typically the best way to get a hold of me or really any member of council during remote work during this pandemic. As they currently stand, ordinance number 2553-2020 to amend various sections of Title 11, Chapter 1145 of the Columbus City Code, and to add and expand definitions, clarify the proper handling of liquid waste, proper discharges into city storm sewers, and the assessment of damages related to illicit discharges, and ordinance number 2686-2020 to amend Title 11, Chapter 1145, Section 1145.97 of the Columbus City Code to expand the definition of a public nuisance regarding stormwater control practices and the requirements for remedying such nuisances. Appear on our council agenda at our last council meeting on February 1st for first reading, and will appear for passage at our next council meeting held this Monday, February 8th at 5 o'clock. That council meeting, again, folks are able to interact with either on our Facebook or YouTube channels, or certainly sign up via WebEx if they're interested in being a speaker on this legislation or any other topic. Appreciate everyone being here tonight, and with that, I will be gaveling out this hearing of the Public Utilities Committee of Columbus City Council. Thank you. Have a great evening and continue to stay safe out there. Good night.